Word.
Okay, so today we thought we are going to talk about what's really going on right now. And right now, me being a mom, Rachel working with moms, we get to see, and I work with moms as well, right? But we get to see and really feel and understand the struggle of the mother right now when it comes to, do I send my child to school? Do I not? Do I give in to the fear? Do I not? Do I inform myself and read everything there is to know about everything that's going on? Or do I not? And of course, there's in between. And I will right away say that I am one of those moms. No, I'm that mom, that stubborn mom, that I'm not as informed as most moms are, probably, because I would much rather not know, because I don't like preparing for things. I like to just go and do what it is that needs to get done and not necessarily take the time to prepare, because I've done that in the beginning of my very first pregnancy, in the beginning of my second pregnancy, and my third pregnancy. I prepared as much as I could, watched a lot of shows, realized not too long ago actually that one of the biggest reasons of how I uncovered anxiety and depression and panic attacks was because I was way too informed when it comes to pregnancy, when it comes to carrying a child, when it comes to pushing one out, and then what could possibly happen, and watching all the horror things. And by doing all of those things, it takes over your mind. And right now, we're like a lot of moms finding themselves like living in like a movie, and they're scared of what could happen with their children, with themselves, with school, with home, and what do we do, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like as you were describing taking in information, it just sounds overwhelming. And when we're in a state of overwhelm, we can often feel helpless and like we don't have that much of a choice at all.
yeah.
And so I really admire and appreciate the way you're purifying your feedback loops by filtering out information that might cause that, because you learn from the past, oh, taking in all this information results in anxiety and depression. So by using your sense of discernment and realizing what expands your energy and what contracts your energy, you're able to make a choice. And it just sounds like you trust from that experience that you have everything you need within.
Yeah, I believe we all do. We all have all the information we need in that moment in time. Like even looking back on, I didn't even know COVID was happening. Wasn't prepared for any of that, because ignorance is bliss. People that live with that kind of a mindset, it does not mean that they're ignorant to everything that's going on. It just means that they would much rather not know and deal with what comes in front of them. If I trip over a rock, I'm going to trip over a rock and deal with it after I trip over it. But I'm not going to look for that rock that I might trip over, because it takes me out of the now. And that's all we really have in this world. We only have the now. Because if we're thinking of the past, we're thinking of the past now. We're bringing all that in from the past. We're jumping timelines. We're taking ourselves from there. We're putting her right here, and then we're hugging her and having a conversation with her, right? With the Yana back then. And then if we're in the future, we're jumping timelines again to that possible future, which might or might not happen. So living with what if, what if? I know in Russian, it's really difficult to translate. But there's kind of like a saying that like when you say, what if, well, what if mushrooms grew in your mouth? You know what I mean? What would you do then? It's like, oh, okay, I don't know. um,
Figure
but
it out. Figure it out then.
and then when COVID happened, my husband was, of course, panicking. Like, Yana, like, we need to do this with the mortgage. We need to worry about this. Well, what if I'm like away from work for so long? And that started to really like escalate my anxiety, and I wanted to panic. And I'm like, no, I'm not going back there. I'm not doing that. I do not want to be that past Yana that would literally just sit like this, like, what do I do? What do I do? What if, right? And that's not a fun place to be. Um, so I responded eventually with, then we'll figure it out. Well, what if this happened? And of course, the worst case scenario that everyone pretty much guaranteed has jumped to with being quarantined. What if we lose our house? Right? That's everyone's worst fear, aside from losing loved ones, losing what you worked for so hard. What if? Okay, what if? If that happens, what are our options? We have this option, we have this option, we have this option. What experiences will we gain from all of these options? Oh, all of a sudden, like, gets a little lighter. Okay, so it's not the end of the world, because that's what happens in those moments. We start to think, what if? And it feels like it's the end of the world, that we are about to die. And it's absolutely normal to feel that way. It totally is, because there's value in that feeling. Because that's the feeling that you can then use later on to remind you, no, 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 I don't want that anymore. I don't want to be living that way. I don't want to be feeling that way. That is not my goal in life. My goal in life is to feel this way. So then how do I feel this way? What do I need to do to feel that way? And living in fear is not what I like to do. And that's why my kids are going to school. Because me, like, this is like back to normal life as soon as possible. Normal life is you go to school every day. Yes, there's going to be a lot of changes. Yes, they're going to be, the kids will have that experience of whatever school is going to bring to them to live with for the rest of their life. But at the same time, living in fear to me also means hiding them from the what's going on, hiding them from the reality of their world that they're going to be living in, the reality of what started the chain of events that had started, that brought the world that they're going to be living in when they're in their 20s. That's how it all started for them. Because there's going to be, I sense there's going to be a lot of changes that, I don't know, I'm just like seeing flying cars. You know what I mean? By the time the kids are 20.
Yeah. I thought we would have flying cars by now when I was a kid.
But I feel like we're going to be seniors, and then we'll get to have flying cars, and they're going to be flying themselves.
Well, maybe something that I love about you bringing up flying cars, that exists in the imagination. And something that you brought up once with me, and I thought this was so brilliant. I think it was after my mom was joined us for a moment, and we were talking about her anxiety and her worry and like what ifs. And as you're talking about what if I trip over a rock, I was like imagining you walking with the thought bubble of tripping over a rock and inevitably attracting that experience.
Yes.
And
like a comic book.
And I exactly. Like if you're thinking about it, if you're focusing on it, then you will create it. And that's just physics. And And so then I thought about what you said back when we were talking with my mom about anxiety and worry and the what ifs. And you were like, if you have that much worry, if you're worrying that much, congratulations, you've got a big imagination. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to transmute that worry. It was to recognize it for what it is. It's imagination. You're imagining what's going to happen, and it is based in this illusion of control, as though if we think the what ifs and worry about it, we're somehow controlling, somehow attempting to control our future. And so then to bring it back, when you brought up the flying cars, it just made me think, what if we just used all that energy of work that we're putting toward worry and did actually start imagining a better future for kids? So
Yeah.
Instead of, I guess I mentioned before, what I'm seeing in America in terms of the emergency preparedness, the emergencies at this point, while I have a warrior spirit and totally love being prepared for me comes from a completely different place. It comes from discipline, intuition, trusting my intuition, being able to respond versus react, remaining calm and clear in situations of stress. To me, that's how I remain prepared for whatever's to come. Because if we are imagining that whatever's to come is doom and gloom, then aren't we going to create doom and gloom?
You know what it almost sounds like, what you just said, like how you prepare? I'm just picturing kind of like a cleansing where you literally clean everything out that you no longer need to create space for what's about to come,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that way
Exactly.
you don't have that clutter to greet whatever is about to come, because then that comes in and it entirely overwhelms and takes over the being.
Mm-hmm.
And by purifying and cleansing and centering and releasing and letting go, you have that space to then now be focused and deal with what's about to come.
Exactly. And as the complexity of the challenges we are facing amplifies, and the rate of change is accelerated, like way more so than for previous generations.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to keep up, like, we can't extrapolate anything we're experiencing now, really. Like, we can't extrapolate the advancement of technology, of climate change, of pandemics, of what the destruction of the Amazon's doing. And we also, the same goes for the lighter side of people's heart expanding and empathy spreading and people caring more and more. Along with the advancement in technology, we're able to see what life is like around the world, and we're able to have more of a window into the humanitarian crises around the world. So we are also seeing a heart expansion. But whether it's the challenges or the triumphs, there's no way for us to conceptualize how quickly everything is advancing, just everything on both sides of the dichotomy.
Very quickly.
So that ability to filter out all of the clutter and the information that causes overwhelm and anxiety and depression, being able to filter that out frees up so much space, so that in any given moment we can do some kind of scan of the situation, whatever it requires, scan our energy, scan the situation's energy and all the available options, and then choose in any given moment from a variety of options.
Mm-hmm.
And we know what's like from that place, we know what's best, and we can trust that.
Yeah. Honestly, I love how you said, like the way you ended, and we can trust that, because I believe that is the key to freedom, to happiness. Because if we just trust that every single thing that we are going through is for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
that we're not just going through it just for pain and suffering. Because I heard this, I'm sure you might have heard it too, in Bruce's book, Uncovering the Life He Dreams, that there is no pain and suffering, right? When the I think it was the monk, if I remember correctly, when he would take his robe and the pain would be gone, and he would put it back on, and the student asked him about, like, why don't you just keep it off? Because the pain goes away with it, and you're just suffering, right? He goes, there is pain, but there is no suffering.
Yeah, I love that.
And that right there is also trusting that he was given that for a reason. He was given that pain for a reason, so he can learn to live with it and not suffer with it. Because there is a difference, right? You can live with pain. You can be totally blind. There's a lot of things that can be wrong or go bad. But we are the ones that have a choice to trust the process, to trust the journey, that whatever is in front of us is there for a reason. So we can trust that the schools are opening for a reason, or maybe they're opening for no reason, right? And whatever you believe is right, whatever is the first thought that comes to mind, send my kids to school, then that's the one. And if it's not send my kids to school, then that's the way you go. There is no right or wrong, right? You have your own path. Your kids have your own path. Just because I'm sending my kids to school does not mean that you should. Just because I trust it and I'm comfortable with it doesn't mean you should, because for you, you have your own choice and you have your own intuition that tells you to trust it or not to. So strengthen that intuition by simply trusting it and trusting your decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know, Rachel, if you've ever done a test in school when it was like multiple choice and you don't know the answer, but for some reason you want to circle this one, and then you say no.
Yeah.
You choose another one because no, that can't be right. So you double guess yourself, you question yourself, you tell yourself, I don't trust myself. So you circle another one, you get your test back, and the one that you should have circled was the right answer. But because you decided not to trust yourself, you might have potentially failed the test. According to schools, you failed the test, because it has happened to me many times. So I decided I'm just the first one that comes to mind. That's the one that I'm going to do, whether I studied or not. And then we'll pass.
Yeah. That was always one of the tips in any kind of standardized test prep. They'd say, and if you don't know, go with your gut. Go with the first thing that you thought. And
you know why?
Huh?
Do you know why though?
Tell me.
So because whether you consciously know the answer or not, your subconscious does, based on you literally flipping the page, and your subconscious takes a snapshot of everything and it just remembers everything. So you have the answer to any question. You literally do, always. And that's why your intuition says that one. And the moment you hesitate, you build that untrustworthiness towards your intuition, and it eventually gets quiet. But subconscious always knows the answer, which means you know the answer. Because it's like the best computer that we have up here that stores everything. Um, and that's where the intuition comes from the subconscious.
Exactly, which is also why you know the answer, because the subconscious and our intuition, it's all connected to the same order of the highest intelligence. So, like if you've ever had dreams about something and then wake up and then find out that that happened in the world somewhere, um, they used to have all the time. Like I would have dreams of something and then see on my phone that that occurred, and that's in the dream world. We have that access to the subconscious world and oneness and um, just that unlimited source that we can draw from.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that you brought up intuition as an option for choice, and how each mother has her own set of intuition.
Yeah.
And to circle back to what we started with in terms of what blocks that intuition, anxiety and stress and worry block it. Because for those who don't know, Yana and I are both Energy Leadership Index Master Practitioners. So we are trained in being able to conceptualize and access a knowledge base to assess how thoughts and feelings are causing us to expand and contract. And so intuition, when Yana and I hear intuition, we also know that intuition comes alive that when we're expanded to level 6 energy. And whereas depression, anxiety, and worry, those are at level 1. And that's why it feels like we don't have much of a choice. So I'm offering this to you as permission, as having a scientific knowledge-based permission to give yourselves experience as much joy. Give yourselves permission to do what brings you joy. And the more time you spend in that expanded frequency, the more you have access to all the information available to you that's always there. Mm-hmm. And it's just the stress causes us to contract to levels 1 and 2, where at level 1 we feel like we have no choice. At level 2 we feel like we have one choice, and it's either right or wrong. So many of us, with the choices that are presented, feel when under stress that that's where those are our only options. So I just want to give you permission to experience joy and mitigate, as Yana did, any information that causes overwhelm. If you want it to be prepared for what's to come, I would definitely recommend small doses and in a way where you are able to energetically scan how you're feeling. And as soon as it starts feeling to be overwhelming, or you start feeling helpless, hit the eject button and refuel and get yourself back to joy and those expanded frequencies.
And then as I'm hearing you speak, I just have this phrase followed by a question go through my mind. With the phrase is just breathe. And the question is, how on earth do I calm myself down to be able to hear my intuition? Right? And that's where it comes from. Just breathe. All you need to do is breathe, and just what helps me is, I'm a visual person, whether I actually physically see it, but I need to create some kind of a story of what's going on. So I like clouds. And dark clouds is the ones that I don't necessarily like. So I just imagine kind of like a flow going through, right? Dark clouds going out when I exhale, and light clouds coming in. And in order for them to come out clean, they need to go through the filtration system and filter and take everything out that is not serving me, and I'm breathing it out. So in that moment, I also trust myself with whatever random words that might come to mind that I want to exhale. I would use that, and I would exhale all those words, because that's all they are. They're really words with feelings attached to them. And then everything that I want, I'm inhaling it through the light that helps to cleanse everything else out, right? And doing that a couple of times, just really deep breaths in. If you want to hold it for a few seconds, because maybe you want to visualize those clouds kind of like expanding and just grabbing all those words, because maybe you need time to come up with those words. And then you exhale them out, right? And you're looking for all the little creases and nicks and knacks and all the little parts of your body where it might be hiding, and getting it all out. And then, whether you want to close your eyes or open your eyes, you can find yourself feeling lighter, more like a cloud. And then you can say, okay, well, what is my choice? What is my decision? What am I going to do now? I'm open to your intuition. Speak, and I trust you. That's it. And Rachel is doing the exercise.
Yeah, that got emotional. The
And
word resentment came through, and then I played all the situations and thoughts that I have that trigger that resentment that I didn't know I had. Thank you for that.
you're welcome. And see, that's you trusting your intuition, that you just needed to go and follow whatever I was saying and do it and
Yeah.
take advantage of that moment.
Well, that's also one of your gifts. You have such a wonderful gift of clairvoyance. So whenever you start describing your meditations, I know you're sharing your medicine. So I'm like, ooh, I'm opportunity. Let's do this. And it's just really easy for me to follow, like, because you use your clairvoyance and you have such a healing voice. It's really easy to follow along, and
Yeah.
it's so clear that you've done it, and that it's really resonated with you.
Yes.
And so when I hear that, I know it's coming straight from the soul.
Yeah.
And
And
thank
sometimes
you.
even looking at the clouds helps,
Mhm.
right? Because it's difficult to just picture a cloud. Look at the cloud outside. If there's no clouds, get a cotton ball and just kind of like spread it apart a little bit, and it looks like a cloud. But thank you, Rachel. That's very nice to hear. Um,
I feel lighter.
there you go. And that right there was also releasing the energy. So if somebody finds themselves crying, let it flow. That's the darkness, the dirty clouds coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you want to scream, you scream. We all have different ways of how we like to release and get to that. It's almost like I don't know how to describe it, to that moment of Zen. It's like only now is what matters. Like right now, me sitting right here having a conversation with you. My kids are somewhere else. I mean, it's not that they don't matter, but this is the moment that matters, right? When I'm spending time with my son, that's the moment that matters. He likes when I just cuddle him. He just playing his games. I'm like, I'll grab him. I'm not gonna tell him to stop playing his games. I'm not gonna take away what he loves doing just because I want cuddle time. I just take him with his phone and cuddle. And if he chooses to put the phone down or whatever he's playing down, then that becomes a more intimate moment. But I don't tell him what to do. I allow him to choose his own path, because that's still, even this tiny little moment is still his path, right? And most of the time he just puts it down and he's like, I love you, mommy. I love our cuddles. And he will just sit there and cuddle without me having to tell him what to do. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any human being likes being told what to do.
I agree wholeheartedly with that.
Yeah. So the same thing with the schools right now. If you have someone telling you what to do, don't listen to them, because they're not you. And we just talked about intuition. You trust yourself and trust your intuition. If you feel like what they're saying is right, then go ahead. But if you want to do your way, you do your way, but not because you're stubborn, like me, but because but because you know that that is the right choice for you and nobody else.
There are a couple of things that you said that I just want to circle back to because there's just so much medicine in there. Um, as you were talking about your time with your son, it sounds to me like the having set boundaries, like now you're here with me and you're fully present with me, has also resulted in your capacity to be fully present with them when you are with them,
The word
which is
resentment that you just said kind of seems to fit in there, because a child can build resentment towards their parent if they're constantly being told what to do and what quality time means to the parent, not to the child, right? It's on my terms, my quality time, not the way you want it.
and when you're fully present with them, like you're there, you're with them, and it's you're aware of their, like as you said, that's his path. You're aware of his journey. And that is just so nourishing for a human to just have someone present, unconditionally loving, aware that they're on their journey, which also will probably be very helpful going forward because we have no idea what kids are going to be capable of, what they're going to be learning. So like how they're going to be collaborating with one another and kids in other countries. We have no idea what's to come. So hearing you with such a growth mindset and how you perceive your children and just champion their paths, and it's just like that is going to bring so much opportunity. Like they're going to feel so empowered if they have a particular area of interest, like having someone present, getting to know their interest. It's just like I think that that's something that could really help going forward as we adapt to these chaotic times.
Yes, we got to be flexible, because if we're not flexible, what happens to things that are not flexible? They break, right? And they can get glued back together and just makes them more beautiful, but not everybody can survive that breakage. So finding ways of how each and every one of us can be more flexible in all areas of our life will make it easier. And I love, the phrase I always say, ultimate freedom. The ultimate freedom, it only comes from within, right? And that means trusting the process. That means being flexible in all areas. That also means having less judgments of anything, really, and being in the moment. And there's a lot more that can be attached to the ultimate freedom. But I just want to say that all comes from within. That's everything that every human being wants, right? All of us want to feel free, because like it's like I know, Yana, I want to feel free, but I have so many responsibilities. I I have a lot of things that I need to do. You know, I have a job, I have kids, and it's hard and it's heavy and it's a lot. I get that, but they're not all here right now, right? And the freedom comes in the now. So why bringing all those things into the present moment now where you can just be with your child and just do that, right? Some people like schedules. You can schedule it in. There's nothing wrong with scheduling in family time or one-on-one time.
Actually could be very helpful in just getting it out of the brain, like put it on paper, and
Yes,
that helps get it out of the brain, and then you can trust that when the time comes you're prepared.
yeah. And when you're there, you have everything you need. If you're cuddling with your child, all you need is your hands. If you don't have those, you have your feet.
Yeah,
Right?
like that, it's like that saying, worrying about tomorrow doesn't change the outcome or the results of tomorrow. It just drains from the energy of today.
Yeah.
And um,
It's like dipping into a cup, right? I'm just seeing like three cups: past, present, and future. And you have a sponge, and if you go into the past, you're bringing into the present moment, right? And you have a wet sponge that if you put that into your full cup already, it's just gonna make a lot of mess. And it's not really gonna soak much in, but you wanna empty that sponge. And if you try to empty it into the present, into the now, it's going to overflow. So, which also means it's diluting and mixing what's already in that cup from the present, which means it's not 100% present anymore. It's mixed with 20% past, 20% future. Most people are actually living in the future than the past. That's one thing I learned. The brain usually just goes into the future, and it's not in the present, and it's not necessarily the past, but a lot of the past has to do with the future. So it's the past kind of skip the present, but the past kind of attached to the future, and this kind of affects the future outcome, which in a way is
yeah,
true.
exactly.
Um,
You play
but
it, yeah.
yeah,
And for anyone who's wondering what thoughts in the past might sound like, it's like thoughts of wishing, replaying events, and wishing that we could have changed the way we behaved or something we said, wishing we'd done something differently. So thoughts like that keep us in the past. So something that Yana spoke of earlier was understanding the value in the journey. And so something's very helpful for those thoughts that are of the past is to focus, maybe journal about it, on what those experiences taught you and how much we've learned from those. Because someone at one of the Find Your Zen retreats that the Creative Zone squad and I were hosting up in Maine, someone was like, it, we were having ceremony around the fire, and he said something like, "I still have a lot of mistakes to make," and I was like, "Ooh, I really like that." Um, because that's the only way I've learned, like really learned. I don't mean from education, an educational standpoint, but from an experience standpoint and inner guidance standpoint. It's the mistakes that have taught me the most about myself and how to adjust. And so if those thoughts from the past are um, draining you and causing you to spend a lot of time in the past, one way to alchemize it is think about what you've learned and what it's taught you, and hopefully that'll bring you to the present. And as we were saying before, if the thoughts are in the future, just trusting you have everything you need within. um, and for both, just root chakra work, if you I can offer some root chakra affirmations, but just really grounding in the present, looking around, looking at the clouds,
Yes.
um, just being
Finding
here.
finding just really like looking around wherever space you're in. Look around what's around you and admire it. Right? A lot of people will use the word grateful, be grateful for what you have, but that word also kind of, to me, when I hear be grateful, what I hear is I'm not being grateful, so I need to be grateful. So it kind of creates a feeling of I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So you should try harder to be grateful. So that's why I'm not a big fan of the word grateful and be grateful, but admire, right? You can admire your life. You can admire the person of who you have become. You can admire the beautiful plants you have around you. You can admire everything that you have around you that can help you to bring you into the moment now. And believe it or not, these are the moments that you can actually eventually remember more of. And that's what I have been doing with my kids or with my dog. I admire them. I'm not grateful for having them. I am, but I'm not thinking I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. I'm thinking I love them. I love this moment. And what do I love about this moment? What's beautiful about this moment? What do I admire about this moment? And really just like looking around, taking everything into account that matters. Making a story, because we all remember stories. And us taking all these things into account and admiring everything we possibly can, including ourselves in that present moment, that is a story that one day you can tell your children that you remember all those little awesome moments that you had with them or with yourself. You can tell those stories to yourself and to your grandkids and to your dog that probably won't remember or understand, but they're still there looking at you like, oh, you're the best human ever. I love dogs.
Christopher and I call it weaving together a series of nows. And so throughout COVID, anytime there was a really lovely moment, a moment that brought us joy or bliss, we would just say now and just weave it into the tapestry we're building. And so hearing that you've been doing that as well with your children, I would just love to wrap up with just any favorite nows that you have that you think other parents can probably relate to and admire, that we've been able to have these experiences because of kids being home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Honestly, the the thoughts of I'll never get this time back again come to mind, because talking about the now and the past and the future, all you have is now, and everything like I really don't see our children being home with us all the time. So the time that we had with them being at home, no matter how difficult it might have been, how frustrating it might have been, how loud it might have been. I know my house, it gets loud, right? Because sometimes kids are all about me, 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 me. And when me is not hearing about me, and because they're such different little human beings, the fighting and the arguing, and mommy gets thrown in the pit, mommy this, mommy this. And it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm a monkey in the middle. I'm not doing this. You guys can sort the stuff out. So just watching them fight and bicker can also be a funny thing. It's like, I remember doing that as a child. No wonder my parents didn't like it. But why? This is like a free movie. This is a show. Why do we have to be serious about it? Why do I need to have that sense of I need to control the situation because it might get out of hand? And even though there might be some truth to it that it might get out of hand, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get out of hand. Um, and we're just observers.
Yeah.
And even when your child goes for a bike ride, comes back home, drives a bicycle alongside your car, scratches the car, leaves it in the garage, and then pretends to lie that they didn't scratch your car, even though there's evidence inside the handle of the bike. Every time I go to the car, it's on the driver's side because my daughter did that. She scratched it, and it's like, I didn't do it. What's the point of lying? I don't get upset when you tell me the truth, but I do get upset when you lie because there is no point to lying. It doesn't make you feel good because then you got to live with that guilt. So just release it.
And historically, it's just so inefficient.
Yes.
Lying is just so inefficient. Like, let's just get to the point.
Yeah, it's like just telling me how it is. I scratched your car. Okay, great. Now I have a reminder of how much I love my daughter every time. And I don't get upset. It happened, right? There's honestly, every time I look at it, I just want to take a picture and do one of those like hashtag I love my daughter because
I love it because so many of us have attachment to material possessions, and so instead of having attachment to a material possession, you're creating a symbol that material possession is now a symbol of your love for your daughter. It's like an art piece of art that your daughter made on your car.
it's funny you bring the piece of art that the daughter did in the cars. I met a lady over this weekend who said that her daughter wrote, I love you on the car with keys. So I'm like,
Oh,
oh, she loves you. And she wasn't upset either because she's like, oh, she did it out of love. She wanted me to see it. She wanted everyone to see it. The kids don't know. They don't understand that, to them it's just stuff. And when did we start seeing this stuff as kind of like we're worth something because we have the stuff, basing our worth on the sheer amount of stuff we have.
That's what the cycle of advertisements and consumer mindset does to us. We think we need all the things and the next best thing to be seen as valuable in society.
Yeah.
Like when we get down to it, when we get down to our roots, what do we really care about? The people we love.
Yeah.
So if our attachment to stuff is injuring them, then what is the stuff worth?
Yeah, what is this stuff really for? It doesn't necessarily keep us warm at night unless it's a blanket and the heat in the house. But all this other stuff, like if it breaks, I'm not upset at it. I'm not upset that it breaks. I might be upset if I have to clean it up, right? But I'm not upset that it broke.
I just love how human it's just so beautifully human, like all of it. Like we break shit, like we're constantly like upkeeping our in living situations. Like being a human is just constantly doing stuff, like refilling the water filter, just like always like little small. I love the series of little small of tasks, simple tasks that are so uniquely human. And when we can bring ourselves to the now, we can make it a choice to make any act, ceremonial. So sweeping up, if glass breaks and you're sweeping up glass, it is a sacred act of being a human, serving the community, cleaning up, doing dishes, and like, yeah, I just love it. I love being human. I think it's just so beautiful that we are all in this unique experience, and we really do have a choice in how we experience life, and
Yeah.
and freeing our minds. Like, I love bringing it back to the theme of freedom, freeing our minds from the illusion of control, and just being in the moment, and
Yeah. And I think,
sometimes if I find that I'm either living in the future or the past, I will mentally just start narrating what I'm doing. So if it's doing the dishes, I'm like, now I'm doing the dishes. Oh my God, I'm so thankful for water. Look at all this water coming out of the faucet. And just real that, which also expands gratitude for our basic necessities. And when our gratitude and appreciation, admiration, I love that. Thank you for adding that to my vocabulary, that I'll work with gratitude, and just having gratitude for the clean water and being able to take a shower and being being able to Zoom on the internet and having peaceful night's sleep. These um, being able to take those snapshots of those nows when we are present in that moment, and admiring what it is that we are enjoying, getting to enjoy in life,
mhm,
shelter, food, then that starts expanding our sense of safety and security, so that we can continue to grow and flourish.
yeah, exactly. And I know you got to go because I hear your phone going off. Probably like, where are you, Rachel? Well, wait to start.
Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun, and I appreciate it so much. And I think it's, yeah, I hope that the other moms out there feel a bit more seen and heard, and like you're not alone,
Mhm.
um, and that the it's shared. The
Yeah,
experience, while it's unique, it's also shared.
definitely. And honestly, the reason why I put this on today, because some people might be like questioning, what the hell is she wearing? Why is she in her pajama, by the way? And this is part of it. And that's for all those moms that might be feeling overwhelmed with taking the kids to the bus in their pajamas because they didn't have time for themselves. And it's absolutely fine.
Mm.
I started doing that when I was overwhelmed and I was losing myself and I was beating myself up for not being good enough and wearing pajamas to drop my kids off. And now, when the school starts, in last year when they were going to the bus, I was doing it by choice. And because I was comfortable and confident enough in me wearing my pajamas that I didn't care what anybody else was thinking of me in my pajamas.
Thank
Because
you for
that
that.
was my choice for the outfit to bring the kids to school and then go for a walk with the dog. And I'm okay with that. There's nothing wrong with wearing pajamas to drop your kids off at the bus. Maybe grocery shopping will be pushing it a little too much for me, at least, but some people do it and they're comfortable with it. And there's nothing wrong with it. Take the judgment out of it for your own sake, because even when we judge others, what we're really doing is we're judging ourselves and we're draining our energy. And I don't know about you, but I value my energy and really keep it for myself. So I do less judgment out there, less judgment in here, and eventually there'll be very, very little judgment because we can't completely get rid of judgment because, you know, we still have to judge the weather if it's cold or hot.
And it could even be fun, like challenging the status quo. Like, if the status quo is to if it's to shame, like pajama shame, then it'd be fun to challenge it. And anywhere where we see where it feels like it'd be fun to challenge the status quo, why not? Like the status quo hasn't been working.
Yes.
Because we're all individuals. So
Yeah.
like wherever the individual call is to challenge the status quo, where you're noticing like the shoulds popping up, like, oh, I should do this, there's that opportunity for challenge. And like, what's my role in this? Like, let's play this game and just be different.
Yeah. Exactly.
Break.
Rebel at heart.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of ones and zeros out there. Like the simulation will respond in the way it does. It has nothing to do with you.
And we're all rebels. Each and every human being, I believe, is a rebel. And that's why everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be understood. And they fight for themselves to be heard, seen, and understood in the ways that they know how. Even in silence, that's still fighting.
Exactly. And it's just, it doesn't need to be that way. Like everyone deserves to be acknowledged. Like everyone who exists is a being worthy of acknowledgement. And I was thinking about this dude who would sit outside of the CVS when I lived in Boston and would go up to the T, and I would just notice how everybody would ignore him and not make eye contact. And I would turn and look at him and smile, and he'd be like, there's that gorgeous smile. And it was just a very lovely exchange. And I realized how much we are, I guess, afraid to acknowledge one another.
Yes.
Like afraid of what that might open up within us. Like we might feel something.
Yes.
So we play this game where we don't have to acknowledge. Yeah.
Yeah.
But everyone deserves to feel seen and acknowledge. Everyone.
Yes. Even if it's a person you're walking by and they're not making eye contact and you're waiting for them to make eye contact so you can say hi. Don't need to wait for the eye contact. Just say hi or good morning or good evening or good afternoon, because
or wave. Like I know with that people wearing masks out in public, it's weird because you can't see if someone's smiling or not, but you can always wave and just like
a smile. I'm just waiting for it to come in. So people will always think I'm smiling when they look at me, and it's like skin color, and it's a really big.
Oh my god, that's amazing. Perfect.
If we're gonna be wearing masks, I might as well, get a mask I can really enjoy and feel more comfortable with.
Yeah.
But
yeah, exactly. See, that's adapting to the situation.
Yeah. And also by thinking smiles are contagious. So if I wear a smile, that might be contagious. And I don't know the outcome of that, but I would imagine that if the other person sees my smile and they smile, they might just feel good. And
it automatically reduces stress. The act of smiling reduces stress.
Yeah. So go look in the mirror and smile at yourself. That's it. And just smile at yourself. I did that in the very beginning until I would just smile at myself, like I can't smile. I would cry because I didn't feel like I was deserving a smile for myself, because I meant happiness and I wasn't deserving of happiness. But by doing that, it allowed me to allow myself to have that happiness and joy and feel it. That I didn't need to do anything to deserve it. I was born deserving of it.
It's your birthright. Joy is our birthright. And that brings us, if I'm glad that you brought up not feeling deserving or thinking that you're not deserving. Like that is an illusion. And that's exactly what keeps us from our intuition.
Yeah.
Because so again, I just want to really drive that point home that the more joy we experience, the more access to our intuition we have, and the more prepared we are. So no amount of knowledge alone prepares us, and no amount of feeling alone, but the union of knowledge and feeling is what really opens that intuition. And we truly know and trust that we are prepared in any given moment. So yeah, keep those moments of joy an active part of the day.
Yes. So this was awesome. I just want to say thank you. Great job for coming up with it. I think it was on Friday you sent me a message and I listened to it. I'm like, yes, let's do it. And this morning I woke up with the shirt. I'm like, oh, perfect. I am not taking it off. I'm just going to go get my mask and put it on and let people really think I am weird and see my weirdness, because there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. It is one of my gifts.
Exactly.
And we all have that gift, the weirdness.
Yes, exactly. Like we're in nature. So everything else in nature has its own unique shape and form and color, and we do too. And unique spirit. So keep following that spirit, that wild spirit.
It's a stallion. You can't catch it.
Exactly. All right, I'm gonna go follow the wild call to the coven, to the wolf pack.
Tell everyone I said hi. We have later. So my husband is home. We're almost done the basement. So excited. Yeah, so I will see you then next week.
Yes, looking forward to it as always.
Awesome. Thank you, and thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.
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 Bye.